hailing you, hailing us from the USS Spacebook. Inspect your implant or implants, depending on where, when, and how. And engage your warp drive for this episode of our YouTube exclusive, raw, unfiltered, as live Star Trek video podcast, vodcast. I found out the word today is vodcast. There we are. Yes, news, views, and reviews from the final frontier. With me, Dan Hardley, Birmingham's king of the geeks, of course. And as ever, we've got our away team, sort of home team, waiting on the bench, ready to come out and to seek new life and new civilizations and maybe some new opinions this time, because we've got a plucky new recruit too, somebody who's never been on the channel before, never even seen the show before, which, you know, could be for the best. But yes, they'll be along in a moment. But first of all, yes, who shall I bring out first? Yes, Warp Drive's very own Trill Elder is the... I think he's wondering if... I can see the look on his face now. Yes, is that a symbiont in your pocket? Or are you just pleased to see the rabbi from another planet?
and I have a symbiont, but it's not in my pocket.
Hey!
There you go.
Good afternoon, mate. Fire on all
How are you
again.
doing? Good afternoon. Opening hailing frequencies to you. Yes, I got through another episode of Discovery. Congratulations. Okay, I want you to know something. This is how much of a geek I am, and I'm not even the biggest geek for Star Trek. When I was like 5 or 7, or maybe when I was a kid, I sat with tape on my fingers here for 2 days. So I can learn how to do that. That's actually the sign that the Jewish priests give under when they give their blessing every day. They have to do that. It's a whole weird thing. I'll tell you about it later if you want to go into more details. Yeah, it's the Jewish sign you make for the Jewish priestly blessing.
I mean it when I say it, Rabbi. We learn something new about the faith
every day. There you
single week. I will be Jewish if we carry on doing this show. If they keep making Discovery, we carry on doing this.
I wouldn't recommend it. Bacon is awesome. Bacon is freaking awesome. So's lobster.
There you go. What he gives with one hand, he takes away with the other. Yes, we've also got another returning panelist this time. It's the navigator, you could say, of the home media minefield itself. It's Mr. Keith Isles back on deck. Because I was going to make that noise. Go. What's that noise they make?
There you go. Yes, and the rabbi is absolutely right. Leonard Nimoy did years ago. He did a thing about Star Trek and how he came up with stuff for Spock, and he did indeed mention that Jewish ritual that he saw when he was a kid, where they were doing this and whatever. So yeah, so that is absolutely true. And by the way, I'm wearing my my new Federation.
Oh, is that the Discovery?
There you go.
You're the one who buys the Discovery merchandise. That's how much you like it.
I'm the one.
Yeah, I've got the chime. Where are they?
The home media there.
That's
there you go.
I love that. I'm going to have to get a sample of that and drop it into the old deck here. What I did, is that an official bit of merchandise then? That T-shirt they've got out really quick.
They don't make it anymore. They can do other stuff as well. You can like do a red alert and thing when you make this. I have to work out. I think if you do it this way, it's supposed to.
Oh, that's really cool.
As it this way. There you go.
How good is that? That's awesome.
The other way you get this. There you go. That's when your wife comes in.
Oh dear. On that note, it's time to welcome a brand new face and a brand new voice to Warp Drive here on the Spacebook, who's very gamely stepped into the breach, out of the Nexus, you could say. Joining us for the very first time here, it's Rob Wickings. Hello, Rob. Way.
How you doing? Hello there.
Hello,
so
my friend.
I guess this makes me the red shirt, does it?
Yeah.
It makes you the bravest bloke I've spoken to this weekend. I'll tell you that.
Thank you.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about yourself first, Rob. You are a writer and a podcaster yourself, aren't
you? Intermittent podcast these days. I used to podcast quite a bit back in the day, about 4 or 5 years ago. I do it less often these days, but still up for a little bit of that sort of action. Writer as well, yes. I'm in the throes of NaNoWriMo again at the moment, which is I guess you call it a writing assault course for want of a better word.
Okay.
It's a challenge where writers basically go full on for a first draft of 50,000 words of a novel in a month. So just over 1,600 words a day, pounded out, day in, day out. And this time around, I'm actually doing something Star Trekky. I guess you'd call it fanfic, but it's an idea that I had, and I've discussed with Keith previously as well. It's kind of a Star Trek heist movie, for want of a better word, called.
That sounds really cool.
Check out. Let's see what's out there. The podcast, and we've got a whole episode on it.
I'm trying to talk Keith into using his acting abilities to do a book on tape. Why don't you should do yours?
Absolutely.
And then put it on your channel. I would so listen to that. That sounds like a great thing. That's some sound effects.
I think I could introduce you to somebody. Yeah, I think I could introduce you to somebody who could do some soundscapes for you and all sorts. You could really make that come to life, gentlemen. You could really collaborate on something special. Rob, that project, I mean, just the thought of that. How many words in a month? An entire first draft of?
It'll be 50,000 words in a month. I mean, I doubt that will quite cover it, but I'll just carry on into December to get it all done, because it's a completely plotted out idea. I'm really enjoying writing it. I described it the other day to the members of the WhatsApp group that I'm with Keith as stupid, sexy Star Trek. So that's the kind of motion. That's the way we're going.
One customer. There you go. That's the elevator pitch. I'm so in.
Fate has intervened here on Warp Drive already, and I think you've very much found a mothership here. Yes, whether your opinions on Discovery itself chime with ours or not, you're very much one of us here on Warp Drive. Before we get stuck too deep into Discovery itself, I wanted to show you guys something. Talking about merchandise, I don't see that much Star Trek merchandise around nowadays, but I have seen this, and I wondered if you had too. Where are we? There we are. New Megos. The Mego range, and this one is the Locutus of Borg. Cute.
Wow.
Cute being the operative syllable there.
We got some Discovery ones in this range, haven't they?
I hear there's a Saru. Yeah.
I think there's a Burnham and Saru, right? Have you seen the joke figure of Burnham? It's really not. It's really cruel. It's basically a blank. It's a slab of wood. It's just a slab of wood with like a paper. I'll try and find a picture for you. It's so funny.
Sounds good. Yes, I was all this sort of Mego thing, because the Mego figures were popular in the mid-70s, weren't they? Particularly in America. I've never owned any of the Star Trek ones, but I did have I think it was a Superman one when I was a kid, but it was rebranded over here. I can't quite remember what they were called over here in the UK. But I just love the simplicity of this, how it's all sort of fabricy. And obviously it's the Borg from TNG, the series, rather than from First Contact, when H.R. Giger managed to sort of get hold of them and pimp them up a little bit. So it all looks a little bit like a leotard still. But I love it for that. And after post-Picard, to just be reminded how great the Best of Both Worlds was. That's never a bad thing, is it? But no, I wondered if any of you had bought any Megos and have them dotted around your home or your collection. Rob, are you a big collector?
I'm not really. Certainly, this is a quite strikingly old school kind of merch. Yeah. I do have an old TNG phaser toy kicking around somewhere in the attic. Which, if I'd thought previously, I could have actually brought it down, because that still actually works. It's got like the stun and kill settings on it. But no, not a big collector at all. We don't have a great deal of room here, so we tend to. I tend to be closed down in terms of the amount of junk that we can have on the shelves.
Yeah, you can only keep so much in, can't you? They've got a little bit on the card there. 8-inch action figure, Locutus of Borg. We are the Borg. All that business. Look, that's the way they like them as well. I love all this creative photography you get on these now.
I like the heads are oversized. You know, it's very. I like that playset. Have you seen the bridge playset they have? That's so cool. You got a bridge and you got a transporter room on that.
From years ago, where you have to sort of turn the box around in there's a transporter. Is that the one?
That's the one. Yeah. And there's a website you can go to called, which is this is a blatant plug for them, called 3D Trekker. They've never made me anything. Okay, so this is 3dtrekker.com. They 3D print stuff. They 3D print a lot of stuff made for the Mega range.
Well, I mean, this is a whole line, which I think it was dead for quite a long time. But the fandom there and the collector's market was always really, really strong. So the fact that they're giving them more product and they're still observing those dimensions, Rabbi, as you just said, I mean, the heads are outsized, aren't they? It's, again, just like Lego and every other brand, it's all part of the charm. You know, nobody's going to pretend that they're real, are they? But no, I love this, and I really appreciate all anything creative like this. It's all fairly painstaking. I think they're all hand sewn as well, because one would imagine they're not mass produced. You won't see these turning up.
Yeah, they've got to be machine made. This can't. I mean, unless it's like some horrible sweatshop in somewhere, you know.
Oh, maybe you're right.
Palaces on their fingers to make a car. No, they've got to be machine made.
You're probably right. You've got Betty Page and everything else there.
Yeah,
I don't. I've never
the iPhone factory. You know,
I've never seen them in the wild anywhere, so I don't really know. But there's 14 points of articulation. That's modern action figures got about 84 or something like that. But yeah, no, it's good. I was very much impressed by that. I haven't bought any Star Trek merchandise in quite a while. In fact, I buy very little merchandise. I've got a few bits and bobs behind me. And the rooms nice. Start getting done soon. K9, but yes, I've got two of those. I've got some great Star Trek items in the loft. You know, bits and bobs.
How do you end up with two of those K9s?
Well, one of them.
They're all about £40 or something when they came out, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. One of them was bought for me by my ex-girlfriend. It's not.
Oh, well, there you go. That's
not the reason why she's my ex. We're actually still very good friends, this girl. But yeah, she bought it for me for my birthday, and that one works. It's all, you know, you can move it around the house, it's all remote control and all that sort of thing. But this one doesn't work. This was a damaged one that I picked up in a charity shop for about £2 a few years ago.
Oh, neat.
But I thought it worked quite well as a prop, and the tail's a little bit bent, but I couldn't just leave him sat there.
You can't leave him in the shop for £2. It's totally worth it.
No. But there's no remote control unit, and he doesn't speak. And I've got numerous toys of all franchises like that upstairs, because obviously I think
you can make him speak by pressing the buttons on his back as well.
You could. If it would, but this one doesn't. The one that I've got from I shouldn't really keep calling him my ex. We've been parted a long time. From my friend, is that's in perfect working order. It's been looked after. But she asked me what I wanted for my birthday that year, and we were in Toys R Us. I'd kind of like that. She played a lot, yes. But that's the kind of guy I am. But if I do see one of these Borgs, I'm going to find it hard to resist that. Particularly if the eyepiece, if you could like drop a red sort of neon in the eyepiece, make it light up or whatever else.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you can quite the fiber optic.
Yeah, I'd say that would be fairly easy to customize. I think that'd be I know lots of clever people out there. In fact, somebody out there in the comment section could probably tell me how easy that is. Seeing as I was recently told how easy it is to sort of upgrade old toys and things like that. You just need to get the right paint, and it all sounded like hard work to me, but there we are. Well, after that rabbit hole, lots of rabbit holes. Wormhole. It was a wormhole. After that wormhole, Rob. Yes. Yeah, you get the general gist of it by now, don't you?
Yeah, I'm up to speed now, pretty much.
He's up to warp speed. Yes, back to Star Trek Discovery. So here, of course, it's season 3 of Star Trek Discovery. Rob, tell us then, have you always been on board with Star Trek Discovery? Have you enjoyed seasons 1 and 2? And obviously, this is a bit of a relaunch. So up until now, where were you with it all? Were you on board?
I've thoroughly enjoyed Discovery from season 1, episode 1. Really, really enjoying this new season. Definitely, like you say, it's a little bit of a relaunch. It's a little bit of a change up in terms of boldly going, etc., etc. Strange new worlds, new civilizations, so on and so forth. But I've loved especially in this new season, the positivity that's come back into it as well. It it feels warm, it feels welcoming, it feels like the sort of show that we need as we're going back into lockdown and things like that. It's just a big, comfy hug of science fiction, as far as I'm concerned. And the app that dropped on Friday, again, did really seem for me to be kind of speaking to the way we are now, that sort of uncomfortable feeling, that feeling of being on a journey that we can't really control, or having the sort of feelings and emotions that we can't control either. That sort of thing really works very well.
You mean currently in the world? You mean with the beer bug out there and various other things that are going on in society? Do you mean, or something
exactly.
to do with the human condition?
Yeah, exactly. The human condition, but particularly now where people are just, we're all sort of a little bit lost at the moment. Nobody's quite sure what's going to be happening next. Nobody knows what's going to be happening from one week to the next, really. 1 week you're managing to get to the pub for a drink and a bite to eat. Next week you can't do it. So I think the insecurity that the Discovery crew were seeing in this last episode really spoke to me in terms of where we are right now.
You feel like they've been dropped in the deep end.
A little bit of a happy accident in some respects, because obviously from a production point of view, this was done before COVID hit. A lot of the post-production has been done, during lockdown and whatever, but you're absolutely right. I felt that as well. It felt kind of relevant to the moment, even if it wasn't necessarily intended to be when it was written. But for me, this fourth episode that we've had, I really thought was the most Star Trek that we've had in years. And I say that even more so than Picard. This to me felt like pure Star Trek.
I think there's a definite strive for relevance. They're really, really trying. And just in case there are plenty of people out there who watch Warp Drive who've given up on this show, and sort of their view is that that we can watch it so they don't have to. Ian David Diaz, talking about you. So that is out there. So just in case you haven't seen this episode of Star Trek Discovery, we're talking about Forget Me Not, which is episode 4 of season 3 of Star Trek Discovery. In this one, Burnham and Adira, who is the new recruit from last week, of course, we met for the first time last time, visit the Trill homeworld in hopes of unlocking the secrets trapped within Adira's own mind. Whilst back on the USS Discovery, Saru's efforts to help the crew reconnect with one another take a surprising turn. It's been written by Alan McElroy and Chris Silvestri, with Anthony Moranville, and directed by Hanal M. Culpepper. There we go. That was a lot easier.
Right, that's incredible.
It
really? What did they do? Were they giving each other head injuries to see how they could make it more intently stupid? Like, was that what they doing? Like were they giving each other lobotomies? Okay, the B plot on this one. Okay, hit the pluses. I like the title. Title felt like Star Trek-y. Felt like a kind of any title. I like the title. I like the B plot, sort of the idea of it. Oh my god, I hated everything else. I just hate. Was it Little Ricky Cruz, Doctor? Oh god,
unpack it all.
Let it go.
I can't stand his monologuing at the beginning, and I can't stand. It was so saccharinely, sweetly artificial and feminine. I actually felt myself growing a vagina while watching this. It was, it was so awful. Which, you would have thought would be a good thing, but no, not at all. Okay. So you got the Doctor doing this monologuing at the beginning, and like this perfect way of making him like the perfect human being. It was like, oh god, I hated it so intently. Okay. I said this on my review. It's a bit of a controversial statement. I understand that you're gay. Do you have to be a bloody faggot as well? What is wrong with you? Oh God, I hated it. Listen, and I'm going by the Chris Rock definition of the word faggot, which is you don't have to be gay.
I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. I don't know what half these words mean anymore. Go on.
Oh. It was, and then it got worse. Then it went from being bad and like irritating and obnoxious to actually being offensively stupid and awful by the time they got down to Trill. Like, are we going chronologically? Do you want me to hold back, or shall I?
Well, okay. Let's apply the brakes. Lay back on the couch, and you can tell me some more in a few moments. Yeah. Well, I want to come back to. Fucking hell. Okay, I want to come back to what Keith said, because I did, like Keith, I felt that this was somewhat of a reconnection with what I recognise as Star Trek as a universe and a Star Trek way of telling stories. Now, I don't need my Star Trek or any sci-fi to necessarily be presented in a way which makes me feel really, really comfy, with the A plot and the B plot. But I feel that over the last couple of years, on Discovery in particular, they've sort of mauled it so much to the point where it's virtually shapeless, that anything they can give me that I can emotionally or mentally grab onto and think, okay, this is the Star Trek universe. This is a Star Trek story. So then breaking this down into the A and the B plot really works for me. And I liked that. I thought it really sort of made it feel like I was in that universe again that I love so much. And I like the way they divided the time as well. I thought it was paced quite well.
I'm not going to I actually agree with you with all of that stuff. Yeah,
yeah.
I want to be positive. Or I can be positive.
I also like
all of that stuff.
I also like the fact the title. That somebody mentioned the title. Was that you, Keith?
No, that was me.
Rabbi liked the title. Yeah,
I know it sounds superficial to be talking about titles, but for me, Star Trek titles, particularly the long Shakespearean ones, they can really detach you, and you forget what they are within half an hour or so. So I like a nicely attuned title. I'll always remember, no pun intended, what this episode is called. Which, okay, that's a minor thing, but I just think it means that they're considering how to connect the story to the audience and what the audience want to take away after the fact. I appreciate all these little things.
I'll even strengthen what you're saying there, because I think the calling it "Forget Me Not," having that title, it connects with the title, and I think going for those long Shakespearean titles, the very era, is just a way of hiding, a lack of substance. Whereas here they actually had a story that they were telling, and I think that again, I think the title totally worked in both in Star Trek terms and both in terms of writing. I think
it's the start. And whilst I say I recognise this as Star Trek, Rob, and I appreciate that, it gave me a Star Trek vibe. And by the end of the episode, I did feel like I've been told a complete story, which had, I know it's the cliche, but the beginning, the middle, and the end. And I don't know if I agree with the conclusions that they came to, which again is a Star Trek story too. It sends you away with ideas and with things to work through and to process. All Absolutely. Fine. Yeah. This is Star Trek. Was it good Star Trek, though? Because I've been starved of Star Trek. I've been starved of Star Trek of any kind. I'm still not sure whether it actually makes for good Star Trek or not. I think this is easily the best episode of the season so far. Could be seen as a low bar, but it's probably the best episode of Discovery in some time as well. Back into season 2.
Do you remember, was it last week we watched the thing for Anaxanar, right? The 8-minute trailer thing. That was the first time I felt like I was watching real Star Trek. That in years and years.
Very true.
That's what Star Trek feels like to me. This doesn't feel like so. Okay, so Rob, my basic premise with the problem, but behind Discovery is, and I really enjoyed it for the first 10 episodes of the first season, but I wanted to like it, right? For the first 10 episodes, I liked it. They went away for the Christmas break and they came back, and it was kind of like lost its way, but I didn't hate it. That was only till we got to the second season. And I think the issue is this: it's a deeply feminized version of Star Trek. And I do believe that Star Trek, Star Wars, and Doctor Who, Masters of the Universe, DC Comics, comic books in general, they work best when they are made for 8-year-old boys. And I feel I get the feeling that the entertainment industry finds 8-year-old boys offensive. They call them toxic males. They find it offensive. They find the masculinity offensive. And so this seems to me extremely feminine Star Trek for, and I think when they do that, you push off the people who normally like Star Trek because it's too feminine, and then you don't bring in new people because it's too masculine, because it's still science fiction-y, and you're basically left with like really die-hard fans who love Star Trek, and I don't know, a few weirdos on Twitter, a few purple-haired weirdos on Twitter, and I think that's it.
So I share most of the rabbi's feelings there, but I did perversely really enjoy this episode. I say I'm not sure how good it was or not. I did enjoy it. I thought it was quite good. I thought it was quite painful.
To come in there.
But yeah, I mean, what I wanted to point from what the rabbi was saying, we were presented again here, Keith, with yet another. You weren't here last week. With yet another woman in a position of power. So whilst I'm open to these ideas, but yet another stern-faced woman in a position of power acted like a plank of wood in these characters. But yeah, why don't you tell us how you feel about this episode, Keith?
Okay, I want obviously Rob to have his say, but a couple of things just to point out. First of all, this is the first episode of this season so far, which is written by men. So you're saying it seems like it's girly or whatever. Well, this one was actually written by men. The previous episodes were written by women.
I didn't know that because I made a note of this before, but I dragged this information, like the credits, and popped them into my notes. And I hadn't actually, until I read it, I hadn't actually taken it on board that they were all men.
No, but here's the thing.
It's objectionable, right? This is
here's the thing as well. I mean, I've been thinking about this a lot because I thought that this, for me, was pure Star Trek. But then I thought about this, and I think the thing is, we're talking about a franchise that's been going 55 years. Okay, so it's been around since before any of us were born, right? And yes. Star Trek is different things to different people, and it's gone through obviously different eras in society as well. Okay, but I felt with this, even though they weren't going to strange new worlds, they're actually going to worlds we're already familiar with, but they're doing it in a completely different time. They're doing it 900 years ahead of anything we've seen, right? And I just thought the A and the B plot, like, they are becoming what Star Trek is always been about. The crew being a family and working together and being, with each other. And they were dealing with the PTSD of what's happened in the previous 2 or 3 episodes. And I love the fact that A, that was being addressed and dealt with, but B, we had an ensemble piece this week. It wasn't the Michael Burnham show, which I know you get upset about.
That's fair enough.
Michael Burnham still was key to it. And then the thing going on Trill, the thing going on Trill was excellent because you were dealing with a culture that they referred to her as an abomination, and you had to sort of deal with all that stuff, which is so Star Trek. That to the sick.
Let's come to Rob for a moment, guys. Okay. So, Rob, we've all spoken about various sides to this. How does this chime with you? Even though you've enjoyed Discovery all the way through, do you see what I mean about maybe that it's sort of reconnected with something, and Keith's reading of it as pure Star Trek? Do you see where we're coming from?
I do. I'm interested in this whole thing about viewing a feminization of Star Trek as a negative thing. I'm not seeing that at all. I mean, if I sit and watch Discovery with my wife, and it's a show that for her she's really, really happy and she really enjoys it, and she's been a Trekkie pretty much as long as I have, but she really enjoys Discovery and she likes the different perspectives that are coming out of it, and the fact that it doesn't necessarily have to be a sausage fest anymore. It can be it can be a more
Did you feel like Deep Space Nine or Voyager or Next Generation was a sausage fest? Because I
no, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I totally did. I felt that was a well-balanced show which had masculinity and femininity. I feel that this show absolutely hates traditional masculinity in every way, shape, or form. Absolutely hates it. And you see, I think it actually absolutely hates the core of Western civilization values as well.
Well, more to the point, Rabbi, I think the perspectives, it's interesting what you say about perspectives there, Rob. I mean, if you found that texture in there, then great. But I only ever hear, until this week, I felt like I was only ever given one perspective on Star Trek Discovery for a very long time, certainly since Brian Fuller was on it. So, maybe I haven't looked hard enough. I don't know, but I just, whatever it is, it's not reaching me. It's not reached me at all. But yeah, I mean, so what were your thoughts as this episode progressed? Was it good? Were you a Deep Space Nine fan? And did you like the fact they reconnected with the Trill mythology and the Trill homeworld? How did this interest you, Rob?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was great seeing the Trills sort of back in the mix a little bit. And I know I was talking a bit earlier about sort of strange new worlds and so on and so forth, but having the spore drive there means that they can zap around the galaxy without too much of a problem is absolutely fascinating to me. The fact they can sort of reconnect with these
potentially it is, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. What's fascinating to me, if I can bounce on a little bit, is we're not really seeing much in the way of what the burn has done to the galaxy as a whole. I'm kind of fascinated by the fact that that's really not been properly explored as yet, considering it's a civilization changing event. We're not seeing the sort of economic effects of it. We're not really seeing anything as to what that means for the galaxy as a whole.
We saw that in the economic effects of it. That people are basically held in slavery and indentured servitude to whoever can go interstellar travel and bring them supplies. We've definitely seen the economic. And it's not good.
A tiny bit, but I've been intrigued to see a little bit more of that kind of thing, and how, if there is any kind of civilization left, I guess is what I'm saying there.
Oh, but there is. They've been to Earth, they've been to Trill. There's civilization left. They just don't go far.
I mean, obviously, we have got 9 episodes left in this season, and I gather that season 4
we'll see more.
Terrible.
And season 4, I think, is setting the same historical point.
Okay.
So whereas I don't think they're going to magically vanish somewhere else for season 4. I mean, one of the things that I do get frustrated about this entire show about is the premise of it. I love the idea of a Black Ops Starfleet vessel that officially doesn't exist and that can potentially go anywhere. I think that's a freedom that they've never had before. It's not a freedom that they've had by design. I think it's all been very cack-handed, but they have got this freedom. They really should make the most of it. They certainly haven't before. And I think that they're trying to now. I think they're trying to pull together a show which is idiosyncratic and that is free of things that they couldn't work with, whether it's due to their own lack of talent, which I suspect is the case, or whether it was just, or any whatever reason. I really think that the writing on this, particularly in season 2, was piss poor, weak as water. But at the end of the day, if they found this freeing, and if we're going to get good telly, if we're going to get better stories, I'm all for it at this point. I just want to not have hours of my life continually wasted by allegiance to Star Trek, which I do feel very deep inside. I sincerely love this universe. There's so much to come. And I suppose they'll drip it out. It's quite likely they don't know where it's going to go yet, which is fine.
If they follow the what they did in season 2, but this is what I think is happening with it. They're in their 3rd season, and I think they're vaguely just by osmosis trying just getting closer to what Star Trek is.
Yeah,
by not being as clueless as they were 2 years ago. I mean, again, the bringing in an AB plot was a really good idea. I tell you,
Rabbi, why is it taking 3 years to find this out the hard way? I mean, we could have told them this 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's why.
Keith.
No, but well, here's the thing, right? I mean, I think that the writers of this season so far have completely listened to the fans and the complaints and addressed that. you
Well, they
know,
tried.
the first 2 seasons, which I agree, although there were episodes that I enjoyed, that there were problems with the first 2 seasons. They were very patchy, and a lot of that was down to management and changes in showrunners and writing staff getting fired and all sorts of shenanigans going on. But also the thing that I always say when people say about this, with the exception of the original series, which only ran for 3 seasons anyway, but if you look at all of the other flavors of Star Trek that we've had over the years, most of them never hit their stride until season 3. You think about it, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, all of them had bumpy first 2 seasons and hit their stride on season 3.
There's bumpy and bumpy. I mean, look, season 1 I thought was reasonably solid because they were working on Brian Fuller's notes and he had a rough idea what he's doing up until episode 10, and then season 2 I thought was just really some of the worst writing. I mean, they forgot essential plot points. Not from episode to episode, but from scene to scene. And then at the end, we went back and tried to.
No, I don't disagree with you there.
Like, why did Spock go crazy and start beating?
Yeah.
Like, why was Lee nothing really made sense? But I really try and came into this one with I'm failing. I'm really trying to come in.
Told. I think at least it's told with conviction. This story.
Well, I'll give you something I truly hated in this episode, which I think just comes from the idiocy, the utter idiocy of the writers. We have this religious conflict. We have the traditionalist religious Trill who see it as an affront for a Trill to be joined to a non-Trill, right? And of course, because that's not the worldview of the writers, that any religious thing is just silly. That has to be shown to be silly. Let me put it in context for you. What an incredible social taboo it is. Aliens come down to Earth, right? And they resurrect a corpse of your mother in front of you, right? They resurrect the corpse of your mother in front of you to inhabit it so they can have sex in it, right? And that's just the alien thing they do. So you'll go, well, multicultural everything. And you're watching your mother, taking you
need a moment, Keith.
and you're like, it's so offensive. It's so deeply, and because you don't understand it's offensive. So, on a theological level, you think anybody who thinks that way has to be stupid. And then you have the ultimate wish fulfillment for these idiots these idiot children that live on Twitter, which is who is writing it, where you have the religious guy tearfully apologize, which is all they ever want in life. Because until they be validated, and say,
the people who disagree with them to apologise and admit that they were wrong. I certainly recognise. So in that scenario you've just described there, Rabbi, I certainly recognise the I wouldn't say humiliation, but this way of looking at these, for all intents, religious characters, people who have an entrenched belief, a way of life, and a belief system of their own, and a code of conduct, whatever you want to call it, that they are lesser. And you can see Michael Burnham in that picture we've got on screen now, literally looking down her nose at this guy. And yes, I wasn't quite sure about when I watched it, because I generally enjoyed the episode. I wasn't quite sure what was leaving this bad taste in my mouth, and I think you're completely right.
But that's not unique to this Star Trek.
No,
that is something Star Trek has done historically. For over 50 years, they've always had those sort of episodes.
As point A, though,
this real animosity and disdain. When you had Kirk on the planet the Indians or whatever, they had a lot of religious allegories, and it's always been done in a way that I think has been reasonably intelligent and not sneering, right? And this just seemed sneeringly hateful, And listen, I don't share a Christian's worldview, but I don't see why a Christian should have to feel like he's a second-class citizen if he's a Star Trek fan, which is what this does, because it's made by sneering people who hate Christians because they hate any traditional aspect of Western civilization. So, and it's beyond me. It's not beyond me.
It's an interesting perspective. I agree. I hadn't really looked at it like that, but that is an interesting perspective. Yeah,
I think as the story moves along, I mean, we've got this picture. It is. I mean, this is the stuff the rabbi says. It's it really does hit you right between the eyes, and it's difficult to unsee this stuff. I was aware that something wasn't quite right, but I couldn't pinpoint it. So I did. The more I think about it, it's no coincidence that, as you say, that culture on Twitter is Twitter obviously is very much the echo chamber, and these are the kind of things, the kind of arguments, and the kind of people that they vilify on a daily basis on there. I enjoy using Twitter. It's a very creative place, but it does have this side to it. I can't deny that.
I hate using it.
Back to the plot as they roam around on Trill. There, I liked seeing Trill. I'm a big fan of Deep Space Nine. It's probably my favourite Star Trek show. Michael Burnham, she looks absolutely gorgeous in this. Michael Burnham gets to sort of roam around, and we're seeing Smiley Burnham again. They're continuing to reset this character, I feel, Keith. Really working hard, letting the actress show that she is capable of emotion. It's like I said last week when we were talking to Problem Being was on the show last week, and Mr. Brown, and we were talking about Burnham and how all this development has happened off screen. It just seems a massive shame. But I'm trying to think, well, okay, we are here in week 4. Let's move on from here. Baby steps. This series has been almost unwatchable in the past. It's baby steps. Let us connect with the character again. How do you feel about the whole story with Burnham here? Because she does take this figure here, doesn't she, with Adira, as her reluctant guardian. Saru puts her in this position of responsibility in a highly contentious.
It was the dog.
Culber does. Yeah.
Culber, sorry. Yeah. So she's put in this situation not of her own will this time, whereas usually, she was quite a stoic character, wasn't she, before, who was doing everything by the book. And they do go to sort of lengths to show you that she's changed. The fact that she's got soft furnishing seems to say something about that. But so how do you feel about the reset Michael Burnham? It's not exactly a motherly character, but she's sort of acting as a big sister to Adira here, isn't she?
Sorry, who are you aiming that
at? Keith, Rob, anybody?
Yeah. I mean, yes, she is stunningly beautiful. We'll get that out of the way first of all, but she's also Sonequa Martin Green is I think a good actress. I know people disagree with that, but I've seen her in other shows. She was very good in Walking Dead, which is essentially what led her to get this role. I think that the characterization works, and the reason I think that is, she obviously had her Vulcan upbringing, and in those first 2 seasons,
and I was fine with that as a premise, as a starting point. Well, I should have.
Sure, she had that, but throughout those first 2 seasons of Discovery. You think about it, a lot happened to this character. She got basically, branded a mutineer to start with. Okay, then she ends up in a mirror. Then she ends up in a mirror universe, and has to deal with all of that. And then you've got the whole thing with her mother and the time travel thing, and she carried a lot of weight on her shoulders, right? But since she's been in this timeline, remember she's had a year which the rest of the crew haven't had, and obviously her relationship with Book and some of the stuff that she's been doing, she's literally found herself, and I don't have a problem with the reset burn, and I actually think it works, but that's just me.
I think it
I
can.
agree with that.
It can work long term. And Rob, as a big Star Trek guy, we've seen gradually as well this set get redressed, haven't we? So they now have effectively a ready room, don't they? Which Saru is counselled by the ship's by the
AI,
by the ship's computer.
Pure stupidity. That suddenly the computer generates this AI personality who's wonderful. Of course, female voice has to, because she's a positive character. Has to be a female voice, because that's the only way.
The computer in Star Trek has always been a female voice, apart from the mirror universe. It's always been a female voice.
But in Discovery, you can't have a positive character that isn't female. You cannot have it, or feminine.
Because the alternative, Rabbi, was to have Saru be counselled by, say, Dr. Culber, which would have been totally, it fits in with the rest of the episode. He was counselling everybody else.
They're making this AI thing for something later on. They're putting in for something later.
Yeah,
and that's the AI voice.
Watch the short film Calypso. The same AI is in it. So
voiced by yes, I've got it in my notes here. It's voiced by Annabelle Wallace, who is from Peaky Blinders, and that film, The Mummy, the Tom Cruise Mummy movie, which we know somebody who was in that movie. Yeah, so she's from all those things, and she's Chris Pine's real life partner as well, Captain Kelvin Kirk himself.
So there you go, connection.
This character, and so yes, they are obviously aligning it to that short trek. But yeah, as I was saying, giving us a ready room, giving us these touchstones of Star Trek that we recognise, Rob. This isn't a coincidence, is it? And to fill the chairs with all the bridge crew. So, a lot of these characters, I've been watching them for 2 years. I didn't know their names until last week. Does this also
nicknames? I don't know. I like the red-headed one. The robot's gone, but she's been replaced by the other one. Replaced by the same actress. It seems like not a robot now. I know.
By putting them in this sort of situation across the table from one another, it also gives us a bit of a reset, doesn't it, Rob? But this time with the entire crew. So is this working for you too? Are you clear about who is who and who they are to one another now?
I'm clearer. I agree with the Rabbi to a certain extent. There were certain characters like the red-headed one whose name I didn't really know, but it's great to see him around the table. It's also great to see him have a huge row across the table and storm out again, which is another kind of typically Star Trek kind of a thing, which I always really enjoy seeing. Is when they do have a bit of a Barney and disagree, but then sort of come back together maybe a little bit at the end and sort of say, well, that was said in the heat of the moment. I am fascinated by this change in the AI as well, and whether that's sort of a connection to control. I guess it probably is, but we'll see when we as the season progresses.
You could say that this is all drastic action to align the characters and to connect them all, because they've all been disconnected over much of the last couple of years. I mean, Rabbi, watching this episode, I felt there were scenes between Stamets and Tilly, lots of scenes between Stamets and Tilly, and they were visibly and audibly the same characters that I remember watching from season 1. And I feel like I haven't seen them for a really, really long time. These were recognisably the same characters. Where the hell have they been? Both of those characters really connected with the audience back then. For better or worse, you knew who they were. And somewhere along the way, with Spock and with Mirror Universes and with maybe Quasi-Borgs, whatever else was going on, and even with Pike, who I really, really liked. But all of those things seem to get in the way of us getting to know this crew and them getting to know one another. So for all that you didn't like about that, could you see the effort to bond them all together again?
I think, much like Doctor Who, I think they're doing their best. I think they're doing their absolute bestest, right? Yeah. I just think that they, like most in the entertainment industry, they live with their heads up their own asses. And they live in the rarefied smell of their own farts. It's so there's no I guess if you live in this like really tight bubble that you don't see out of, you can't really see what's going on. But yeah, listen, it's getting better. It's getting better. It's just awful. I can tell you,
it's getting better. It's just still not. It's not good.
I mean, there's things in it. There's like all that. Okay, another thing that was just unbelievably like stupid was when you got to see Adira's backstory with the with her boyfriend that was a Trill. Both these kids are about 14 years old. They're acting like they've been married for 50 years. What the hell? Like, why? Like, I don't understand. Like, nothing in this universe ever gets earned. Even a relationship, even like a long term. Like, it just seems stupid.
Yeah, that's funny you mentioned that. I did we did our episode of Let's See What's Out There on this yesterday with Pete, and he had exactly the same issue there. Whereas he thought the scene was touching and well acted and nicely written, he had a problem with the timeline because he said, hold on, if she's only 16 and that happened a year ago, then she's 15. And they're acting like so he had exactly the same problem that you did, Rabbi. He felt that
impossible to relate to.
He aged her. They could have been an older couple. There's a lot of stuff they could have done to make that work. But again, the problem is it's made by idiot children that live on Twitter. Like the reason they did Burnham was gone for a year. They in the writers' room, they're like saying, you know what? We've got to make it that she's been there a super long time. How long? Super long. Like life-changingly long. How long? Oh, just longer than you can imagine. What? A whole year. And everybody in the writers go, yeah, because they're all 16. And they to them, a whole year is a long time. You know, Burnham's acting like she's been there for 5 years, minimally. Maybe probably long.
I'd say that's true as well.
Nothing gets earned. Nothing gets earned. Everything is just like delivered. And again, they're getting better. I agree they're getting better. But it started at a point of like, just so unbelievably. When I say started, season 2. Season 2, when episode 1, when you had Lieutenant Mansplainer come in. Lieutenant Mansplainer, who existed for 2 reasons. One, not to be Spock. That was good. When he beamed on and his ear wasn't pointy, that was good. I like that. But then he existed to not listen to Michael Burnham so he could get blown up in the shuttle that Michael Burnham somehow is an expert in for some reason other than she's the bestest ever in everything ever, everywhere. So that's Star Trek Discovery for you. But it's getting better. It's getting better. It's just... What can you do?
At least you're admitting that it's getting better. So that's some progress, right?
I have no problem admitting I'm wrong as well. You know, like I say a lot of crap. Law of averages, you're going to get some stuff wrong, but it hasn't happened yet. But I'm waiting for it. I won't be surprised when it does happen. Okay, but as yet, it hasn't happened. But still,
don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's perfect, but this season for me has been really good. And I definitely had problems with the previous 2 seasons. This for me is much more where it should be, and they're really, I think they're taking on board the issues that the show has had in its production, and they had the cast, they had the sets, they had the costumes, they had the visual effects models and everything, and they've taken what they got and they've done something interesting with it, in my opinion. But
I'd absolutely agree with that. I think they are really. There's definitely been the element of season 1, season 2 kind of bumping up against public opinion, and they tried something different with season 2. They tried to make it more what they considered Star Trek was, and kind of didn't maybe get that right, and then tried again with season 3 just by basically flipping the whole thing on its head. And that seems to be working better. If even the rabbi seems to think there's improvement, then I think we're getting somewhere with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I only met you, Rabbi. He only met you an hour ago.
An hour ago. But even with season 2, I mean, the writing and stuff was bad, but in terms of the design and everything, I mean, I thought they did a great job, with the updated Enterprise and Bridge and the uniforms and all this. I'm not saying we should have seen them. I sort of think we shouldn't have seen them, but that from a design perspective, I thought they did a decent job with all that stuff.
Talking of the design, one thing I really liked was, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Adira now, is this sequence here with Adira when you see her face. It's the pattern that seems to travel up her neck because she's sort of trying to connect with her symbiont. That's the driving story. She's trying to connect with the symbiont inside her, which should usually traditionally be hosted by a Trill, and is now in Adira, who's a human. And we get this sort of patterning coming up over her neck and across her brow, connecting in her sort of at the frontal, the front of her head there, almost like a third eye motif. And that also mirrors the freckling on a Trill as well, on a Trill host that they get on the Trill homeworld. I thought little touches like that were fascinating.
Nice piece of detail.
Yeah,
a nice piece of detail.
Adira herself, who I thought last week this character was diabolical, and the actress who played her, I found her to be I described as a charisma void, and I do stand by that.
Oh,
She's slightly better this week. I think this is partly as the character is written now, because I did think that she opened up a little in this week's episode. She's still very earnest. But then I think the character's probably written as quite earnest. Situation.
If only they knew more about Star Trek, they would know not to do Wesley Crusher again.
Of course, he has to be a genius. But then again, I suppose they're trying to sort of contrast her with something. I don't know. I'm going to try and hold in.
Okay. These are idiot children that live on Twitter, right? The only people that look up to them are 12-year-olds like this. They also live on Twitter. This is their art. This is their market. This is who they're trying to get to.
I had considered, is she getting better? Or have they just blindsided me by introducing a character that's much, much worse in Grey, played by an actor who's even worse. I have no idea what they're thinking of with this character. The scenes you mentioned it a moment ago between Adira and her partner from a few years ago, as you mentioned, the age between the two of them. I don't know what it was. I couldn't really make any sense of it. I thought that she was acting quite well, but the other actor, absolutely horrendous. It was played with all the reality of an episode of In the Night Garden or Teletubbies or whatever else. And what the thing that I couldn't get past was, why is this grown woman in a relationship with what appears to be a 12-year-old boy? The last time I felt like that watching something like this.
Who was a grown woman in this? They were both.
Adira seems to be like 19, 20 years of age.
She's like 15.
15? Really?
Yeah, that's actually striking.
It reminded me of those in Star Wars: The Phantom Menace, where you've got Padme and the little boy Anakin Skywalker. That's the nearest I can think of to think, really? Just chemistry here? They start touching one another and they're in a relationship? Really? It just, none of it worked for me. I think it's all trying way too hard to include. I mean, I know there's some. I know there's been announcements that the actresses involved have various different pronouns or whatever. I don't care about any of that. I just care about what's being served to me on screen by the talent that are in place playing these roles. And it's just, I don't care who they are or what they are in their real lives. This isn't working. Whatever they're trying to do, they're trying way too hard. There is drama, there is texture, there is a story to be told here under the surface. And by doing whatever they're doing, by casting whoever they're casting as a virtue signal, it's fine. But all it does is muddy the waters for telling your story. And that's what I'm here for. I'm here for the story, not for identity politics. Time after time.
The problem is that people, in the entertainment industry, people making this, the identity politics, identity to them is everything. They think about it 24/7 for everything.
I'm starting to think you're right.
And so they cut this. I think they did quite well separating it out this much. But I really believe this is like, yes, this is the minimum you can get. Okay, this is the absolute minimum identity politics you can get.
But the thing is, identity politics aside, you were saying about the people writing this are like children. I mean, Alan B. McElroy, who wrote the main script of this, I mean, he's been working in the industry for years. His first credits go back to the mid-'80s, so he's not a kid.
They don't have to contend with children to get work. Okay, when they had a real life in Discovery, was it the second season? He spoke like an adult, and then he was fired by HR for shattering their safe space. That's what happens. So obviously, anybody who can maintain any working relationship has to act like a child as well. The children have taken over. This is Lord of the Flies in the entertainment industry. Yeah,
I felt that last week's episode, which I've forgotten the bulk of quite deliberately. I thought last week's the writing was diabolical, and completely, as you say, Svi, it did seem like it was written by somebody who'd never lived a life, who would be. I could potentially believe they were teenagers. It was that poor. I did think this was generally better, Rob. I mean, and as I said, I mean, the way they're presenting the whole situation with the Trills, because we go back, don't we? We go back to the pools here that we've seen before on Deep Space Nine. So we're presented with that, and it's obviously this is redressed and a bit more 21st century, so it all looks a lot slicker. But it's recognizable as the same place, the same universe. So I'm there. I'm up to speed with it, and by offering us a different perspective on it, which I think the rabbi's reading of it is really valid too. It's embedded enough in the universe that I recognise that to sort of potentially to take me to a different place theologically and to get me to question things from a place that at least I'm familiar with. So. How in tune are you with Star Trek mythology, and do you think they're starting to use it now a bit more wisely?
Well, it's certainly better than Lower Decks, isn't it? I mean, everything here is in the universe correctly.
Couldn't really be much worse. But Rob, how about you?
No, but it's used correctly. Sorry, carry on.
No, I think the theologically, Star Trek's always been handling things in quite an interesting way, talking about religion with things like the Bajorans and in Deep Space Nine, and again the sort of Trill thing here. I can see where the rabbi was coming from, definitely in terms of that sort of flip that could be construed as offensive. But I was sort of on board with the idea of maybe opening up the Trill conversation to include other people that aren't just from that one racial type, and I found it interesting and intriguing, and I'm certainly interested to see how Adira moves forward from here and what her purpose is going to be in the rest of the series, because you don't introduce someone like that with those sort of potential how would we put it, talents without making good use of them, I hope, anyway.
I have a guess. Whatever she's going to be, she's going to be fabulous.
I mean, Star Trek is a show about helping people to reach their potential, as a society,
absolutely,
and as individuals. So you would hope them be aiming at some sort of improvement like that anyway. But when you're presented with characters who are, like the rabbi said, like geniuses and already sort of brilliant at everything they do, it's again.
That reminds me. The worst line in the episode, maybe ever written. When they're explaining when Dr. Kuber is explaining why, everybody's having a hard time. Said it's hard on a ship of overachievers to not be. I'm like,
yes.
You don't have to be the best of the best. Always, all of you.
I wanted to talk a little bit about Wilson Cruz as Dr. Culber here. This character, I'm finding this because we haven't seen a great deal of Wilson Cruz as this character for any length of time, really, for an entire season. Last year, he was all at sea, he wasn't really sure who he was, and he was very untethered from those around him. In season 3, it's like all of that's forgotten, and this is season 1, Dr. Culber again. And in this episode, they do kind of use him to connect the various characters in the way that maybe McCoy and Crusher and other doctors have been on the show. And partly in the way that a counselor was in TNG, I suppose. And for when we see actors like Doug Jones just be amazing in this and being the real sort of their secret weapon, I've described him as before, and always delivering. You see Anthony Rapp being given good material and responding and sort of grabbing hold of his character again and relishing it, it seemed, and even Mary Wiseman too. I've been less of a fan of over time, but again, she does the same. Here, Wilson Cruz is given a lot to do, and I've come to the conclusion that Wilson Cruz isn't a very good actor. He can't. The more they give him to do.
When he was monologuing, I couldn't tell if it was him or the black female doctor, because his voice was just so weak and listen, just like
reading.
No, okay.
Just
I thought he shone in this episode. I thought he was excellent. The problem that this character has had is, and it's not the actor's fault, is they went and bloody killed him, which was a good bit of drama. But then they decided, oh God, no, we can't. We've got to have the representation and whatever. So they brought him back from the dead, right?
They should never have killed him. Well,
I agree. But this is a bit of a course correction again, right? But I think Wilson Cruz's performance and the character as we see him in this episode was spot on. He's the new ship's counselor, basically. I thought he was great. I just think that his character has been given a disservice in the past by killing him and then bringing him back from the dead. That was just terrible.
Found him a little bit of a grinning fool, as if a smile could sort of sort everything out. And I didn't think that was necessarily in the writing. I think that's the way that Cruz is playing it. I think it's the only part he can play. And the more material that they give him, the worse he is. The more it shows him up. I mean, somebody's got to be the weak link, and I personally feel it's Wilson Cruz. I think I've always believed that a lot of the cast were good. Sequel Martin Green, for example. I understand why people didn't like Michael Burnham, but I've always had a bit more faith in her. And I've always liked Anthony Rapp and various other people. I've been frustrated by their characters sort of losing shape over time. But maybe let us know. Actually, this is a good point to point out to people. Please like this video if you've stuck with us this far, and subscribe to the channel. But more crucially, leave us a comment. What do you think about Wilson Cruz and this character of Dr. Corbin? Now we've got all that stuff out of the way with him being spocked, killed, and then brought back to life. Are you convinced? Do you agree with me, or do you agree with our Keith down there? Where are you with Wilson Cruz?
They'll agree with you. I'll get all the comments.
Sincerely, I don't know, because I'm trying to make sure that this show reaches people who are of lots of different perspectives with the warp drive.
Listen, I have to say, I mean, even though my hatred is very loud and visceral, and I do get it. Listen, I'm a very loud, visceral person. I do understand that. I do understand
never change, Rabbi. Never change.
But listen. Again, if you like it, listen. If you're getting pleasure out of this, if you get like a thimbleful of the same sort of pleasure that I've got out of Star Trek over the years from this, I have nothing but joy for you. I really am. I'm so happy for you. I just wish I could do it too. I really do.
I thought that a lot of the scenes in this. Sorry, Keith. I thought a lot of the scenes in this characters again there was real dialogue. Some of it was pretty bad, but some of it was okay, and some of it was almost good, and there were things that I could actually imagine people saying to one another, particularly if they worked with one another, if they'd been through things together. Just as you said, Keith, that there was an effort here to characterize people collectively and individually, and I'm going to latch onto that because I want Star Trek to be good. So more of this, please.
Well, will be back eventually, okay? All you got to hold out for that, then we get some Star Trek.
Yeah. As regards to the way the plot resolved, I think we always knew where this one was going to go, didn't we, Rob?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it did run pretty much on rails all the way through. You knew that there was going to be a happy ending at the end of it, because that's kind of what we're getting with Star Trek now.
That is actually Star Trek-y, that you actually have I think that's actually good. You're saying a good thing about it, right? I agree with you. See, look, you're winning me over.
There we go. See, I'm feeling the love. That's
It's a fairly superficial process that Adira goes through, and it isn't helped by the poor acting of whoever was playing Gray, and that whole thing just didn't sell it at all for me. And so the finale. See, I'm a sucker for a cheesy finale. And for the bleeding obvious. I'm not the most intellectual of people, and I'm quite happy to be served the same thing over and over again if it looks prettier, if I like the actors and the characters. And this one, it did. Even though I enjoyed a lot of the episode, I do think it was okay. Yeah, the story, I was disengaged from it, largely because of that relationship, which a lot of her recovery, Adira's recovery of these memories and reconnection with her 6 hosts, all hinged on whether you believe that or not, and I simply didn't believe it. Down to the actors, probably over the writers, but a bit of both. And generally, though, I liked the shape, the fact this story had shape, the fact that it was trying to make me feel something. It's an improvement. And I liked a lot of the imagery as well. Sometimes what's the expression? Keep it simple, stupid. That word, KISS, that acronym. And the simplicity of this, I did appreciate that. I wouldn't say it felt like a tonic, but the fact that watching Star Trek Discovery this time, I wasn't sent away thinking, my God, that's 50 minutes of my life I'll never get back. I know what they were trying to say. I know why they were trying to say it to me, and it's up to me whether I consider it to be of worth or not, I suppose is what I'm saying. So yeah, I'm going to come to you first, Rob. How many warp factors out of 10 would you give this episode?
I'd probably give it a warp 7. I really quite enjoyed it, and sort of bought into the what was effectively an origin story for Adira. That's the way I'm viewing it, and for me, it kind of worked from there. There's more for that character to do, and there's progression to be had. But in general, I think as an origin story, I think it worked really well.
Yeah, I think that with one of the hosts being this admiral, I mean, it's all very convenient, of course it is. But then, sci-fi for you, isn't it? I'm fairly open to it. I'm still on board for the time being. I'm sort of, at least I'm starting to see why they put this character in place. She still feels a little bit like the Bilbo Baggins of Star Trek Discovery, but 9 episodes left. At the end of the day, this may not be my Star Trek, but they are trying to make it Star Trek, so I'm here for the duration. Rabbi, what would you give this? How many warp factors out of 10?
Whoa, okay, so I'm going to give it the best score. We're not hitting warp. We're not hitting warp. Where we are with the Star Drive section has
the dilithium's gone.
The Star Drive section has blown up. Right, it's just the saucer section. It's using the inertia from the explosion of the Star Drive section, and it has thrusters. It can reach Deep Space 12 if it goes solid for about 4 years, which is the best score I've given it since season 2. So you're doing pretty good there.
Things are looking up, and
it hasn't been assimilated. Yeah, it's still there.
That's the best I think we can hope for, everybody. Keith, how about you? How many warp factors out of 10 for this one? Forget me not.
Yeah. Well, I totally take on board your criticisms about it. I think you do make some valid points. I'm going to give it a warp 8, though. I actually still enjoyed it. I love the character development that happened here, and I felt that we were told a Star Trek story. It was an episode. This was, but they also did carry things over from previous episodes, like the dealing with the situations. So, it's not perfect, but enjoyable.
But you know what? They actually delivered episodic TV, which that's a bar they haven't reached for. I'm terribly sorry that I'm going to have to run. I've got another scream on him.
Oh, that's why I was trying to wrap it up. Thank you for your time. He's warping off now for the time being. It's the Rabbi. Thanks for joining us, mate. Bye-bye. Yes, and I will give this I'll give it a 6 out of 10. I thought it was better than average, and the fact that I did feel like I watched Star Trek, I'm happy with that. I think there's a huge room for improvement with the show, but at least it was recognisable that some of the fundamentals were there. I have to recognise improvement. I have to acknowledge the fact that I did want to know what was going to happen next, which isn't always a given with a lot of shows, not just with Star Trek Discovery, with a lot of shows in the 21st century. And hasn't it gone quiet? Can you, you can hear a pin drop when the Rabbi...
I think my ears have just popped.
We're missing you already, my friend. Come back next time, of course. It wouldn't be the same without the Rabbi. That does wrap us up for now, though. It's been a wild ride, Rob.
It's been a journey, hasn't it? My word.
It certainly has. We're going to ask you to come back, but I'm not going to press you for an answer just yet. You can go away and think about that. I do. Okay. But it's been a great show this week. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please like this video. Subscribe to the channel for more Warp Drive to come in the future and what's been the past. We've got a whole playlist of a good dozen of these episodes that we've already recorded on Lower Decks and Star Trek Discovery up to now. And while you're there, you can also check these out. 2 wondrous live streams that we recorded over the summer months covering Star Treks 3 and 4, those big screen adventures that we all grew up watching. Well, if you're my age, our age. And maybe you found them since. But yes, we had Star Trek 3, where we had a panel with the mighty Doomcock, of course, and Star Trek sage Robert Meyerburn. They were on the show talking about Star Trek 3 from 1983, which we all loved so much. And Rob isn't so keen on, so we sort of went head to head with him on that. And then Star Trek 4, we had Kirk R. Thatcher on the show, the famous punk on the bus, off the bus now, and with us on Warp Drive there, talking about his experiences on the movie and as a producer on the film too, and his friendship with Leonard Nimoy. And we sort of picked away that. You were with us on that as well, weren't you, Keith? That was a great show. And we had Brandon Fight there from the Orville. He's the FX guy on the Orville, so he had a lot to say about something that inspired him as a child. That was good. And yes, what else have I got to plug? This. Yeah, because it was yesterday, wasn't it, as we record this? Keith was on a live stream with myself and Ian Diaz, where we're talking about regularly these episodes of Star Wars this time. Sorry, The Mandalorian. Episode 2 of Season 2 dropped this week, and we went at that like bulls at gates and gave the James Bond franchise a bit of a going over to, has James Bond gone woke? That was the question we asked, and you may be surprised by the conclusion that we came to on that show. And what else was there? Yes, also dropped last night was the second episode of our Blake 7 podcast. I've got stars in the brain. A Blake 7 podcast, Teleport. Yes, that's episode 2, Headspace, where my special guest was John Ainsworth from Big Finish, where we talked about all their plans with the franchise over there at Big Finish, where they make all that wonderful audio drama. John gave us an exclusive interview and let a few cats out of a few bags there, but also talked about his own fandom, his own personal experiences with the show, which, is very generous of anybody. I think,
that was a great show. That was a great show.
A cornucopia of goodness. My word, there's a lot of good stuff there.
Yeah.
We try, Rob. We try. Rob, what would you like to plug? Is there anything you'd like to direct people towards whilst you've got their attention?
Well, I do. I've got a blog called Excuses and Half Truths, which regularly spits out a kind of weekly newsletter called The Cut, which is basically my reading of the week's news, various geeky bits, various culture bits, a bit of food. There's always a song at the end, and that drops every Friday at 9 a.m. That's The Cut. So if you go to excusesandhalftruths.com, that's my website, and that's where you'll find The Cut. And search for me on Amazon for the books that I've thrown out. I've thrown out a couple of novels and a couple of anthologies. They're all out there. So if you think that you might like to read something of mine, it's there to be had.
Can't say much further than that, can we? And Keith, where can people find you where you're talking all things home media or Star Trek or both?
Well, also, I've got a question for Rob, actually, on Excuses and Half Truths. Do they have our mega Blake 7 podcast that we did years ago? Do you remember? We did. It was so long, we had to put it in 2 parts.
We did, yeah. So back when I was podcasting regularly, me and Keith and a few other pals did a thing called... I can't even remember the name of the podcast now, but I've got links to all my podcasts on Excuses and Half Truth. So if you click on the sidebar and go to Podcastery, you will find links to things like the A to Z of SFF and other podcasts that I've built through the years. I keep the payments coming to the web hosting for that, so they're still there. It's still available for people to listen to and hopefully enjoy.
Yeah. Because we talked a lot about Blake 7, and it just seemed relevant that you'd mention that. But yeah, I mean, if you want to see my stuff, I've got short films at British Isles. That's EYAS on YouTube. Home Media Minefield, which is, I always get this round the wrong way. There, if you put Home Media Minefield, I do a show where I look at physical media, do reviews of Blu-rays, 4Ks, DVDs, unboxings, all of that sort of thing. And I also have a podcast called Let's See What's Out There that looks at Star Trek Discovery and other Star Trek shows. Let's See What's Out There Plus looks at The Mandalorian. And that can all be found on any good podcast catchers out there. And that's me.
Ooh, all that, and all the links to all that will be in the description. All these gentlemen's various links. Don't forget, leave us a comment in the comment section. Let us know what you think of this discussion of this episode of Discovery itself and our views. Nobody could possibly hate Keith. Yes, let us know whether we've got it right, whether we've got it all wrong. And of course, let's not forget, let's plug the Rabbi's channel. The Rabbi from Another Planet is out there on YouTube. His link will be in the description as well. He's putting out videos most days on all manner of subjects, on religion, on politics, on Star Trek, on Doctor Who. Lots of live streaming and comics history, comics projects. If you've got a Kickstarter going on Indiegogo, the Rabbi will probably want to hear from you. He's well into all that. Connecting comic book creatives from the world over. He's never off the case. We love the Rabbi from Another Planet. I think that does about cover it for now. This is why we call it Warp Drive, Rob. It goes at a rate, and we always wrap it up around the same mark. Yes, we like to leave you wanting. Yes, like the video, subscribe to the channel. More coming up in a couple of days. More Doctor Who. Tomorrow, Doctor Who live, and who knows what as we go into the midweek towards the weekend again. But yeah, thanks for joining us again here on Warp Drive. You're not going to want to miss what we've got to say about the rest of season 3. Thanks again for joining us, Rob. Hope you've had a good time. And it's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure, Keith. Cheers. And thanks to you for watching. That's a Hailing Frequencies closed. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.